Greetings everyone, welcome to video number 9 in the project management series presented by Process Geekoid. Today's agenda, we will be going over review of the PMBOK process table from last time and also going over the 6th process, which is close project or phase process. This process occurs at the intersection of the integration knowledge area and the closing process group. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment. So let's move forward. So as you can see here, we are in the close project or phase process, and this is happening at the intersection of the integration knowledge area and the closing process group. So here we have that, and right now we'll be going over what that really means. So basically, we are at the stage of the project where after execution of the project and gaining validation or customer acceptance of the deliverables that we have given in the validate scope process, it is time to close project or phase. So once we have gained acceptance during the validate scope process, we are now ready to close project or phase, since we now have the green flag to close it and both parties are basically satisfied with the project performance. So now we can close the project. Well, what does closing really mean? Well, closing the project or phase is just as important as planning for the project, as we had talked about earlier during Develop Project Management Plan. So closing is just as vital as planning the project. So it is wise not to make any assumptions or rush to close the project. By making assumptions or rushing the closing process, there's going to be the risk of rework resulting in extra costs for your team and the customer. So we don't want that to happen. So that is really important to keep in mind, that you can't just gloss over this process at all. Also very important to note is during the close project or phase process, change requests at this phase of the project are typically frowned upon by the sponsor and other stakeholders in the Change Control Board or Change Approval Board, or CAB. So by now, all changes should have been approved or rejected in the Perform Integrated Change Control process here during Monitor and Control. So that should have been done beforehand. As a result, all changes should have been validated beforehand and should have been implemented in the accepted deliverables. So closing project or phase should be thoroughly easy and should be done carefully as well. So that's really important. So close project or phase now is basically the process of finalizing all activities across all project management process groups to formally complete the project or phase. This means process in integration, scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, communication, risk, procurement, and stakeholder knowledge areas process must be tied together in a comprehensive closure, taking all elements from all these knowledge areas and all of the pieces and tie them together to close out the project. So if you're closing out a phase, keep in mind that you have not completed all the project work. Rather, you have completed work for that phase, and you should not release your resources to pursue new endeavors. You need to finish off the whole project and all the phases within that project before releasing the resources. That's really important to know for this exam. They will trip you up on this. You'll need to know the difference between the two. So closing the project or phase consists of 5 major steps. First one is going to be formal acceptance by the customer, which comes from validate scope. This is where your customer is taking in the deliverables and accepting them as they are. Otherwise, they will have to reject them and you go back to the drawing board and redo the work. Next step in closing is going to be OPA updates, or lessons learned, organizational process asset updates. So things like organizational policies and procedures need to be updated. Next, we have product handoff, which is getting the customer sign off and also handing off all of the documentation and making sure that the new product owner is aware of what is going to be done once they take over the project and what needs to be done to maintain it and not lose any value. The worst thing that can happen here is that the new project owner or project manager does not know what to do with the deliverable and start from scratch again, which is basically a sunk cost. So we don't want that to happen. Next is going to be procurement or contractual closure. So keep in mind that there could be multiple contract closures that can happen in a phase or project. So you need to make sure to tie off all loose ends with external vendors and suppliers in the project, and specifically the last date of service, to ensure no money is being lost due to miscommunication between your project team and the vendor. So that's important to tie off the loose ends. Also, we have administrative closure. This is where all the loose ends are being tied, where money is being paid, claims are being finalized, and all payments are being made to all respective parties, such as vendors, and also obviously the wages to all of the contractors and employees in the project team. As a PM, you are required to do administrative closure at end of the phase or end of the project. So what does that mean? Admin closure entails the following: activities necessary to satisfy completion or exit criteria for the phase or project. Next, you also have activities necessary to transition deliverable or product to new product owner or project manager. This means that you are giving and handing off all the necessary documentation and all plans, documents, budget, guidelines, everything needed to run a project to the new product owner and project manager, so they're clearly aware as to what to do in the project moving forward. And then next we have activities needed to collect project or phase records, lessons learned, and archive for future use by new product owner. And then of course releasing the resources for the project, not for the phase, for the project. So that's really important. Keep in mind that if you're closing out a phase, you have not completed all project work, rather completed work for that phase, and you do not release your resources to pursue new endeavors. So finish off the project before releasing the resources. Last step in closing is measure customer satisfaction. Now, moving on, we need to go over the ITTOs, inputs, tools, and techniques. So for inputs now, we have project management plan, accepted deliverables, which is coming from validate scope, and this is where the PM went to the client, showed the deliverables that the project team has come up with to the client, asked for the sign-off, and the client indicated their acceptance by doing so. The OPAs now, organizational process assets, are standard organizational policies and procedures for managing administrative and procurement closure. This could also entail historical lessons learned or information tied to a closure with a specific vendor. So for instance, if you had an issue from a previous project, you would need to ensure that you don't make that same mistake again, and thereby saving a headache and cost and schedule lags. So keep that in mind. Also, for tools and techniques, next we have expert judgment, which is other project managers within the organization that can help you during the closing process. Then we have the Project Management Office, or PMO, and professional technical associations like PMI or Project Management Institute that can help you in this process of closing. Then we have meetings, which is used to go over lessons learned, closeout procedures, and review meeting to keep all stakeholders in the loop during the closing process. Next, we have analytical techniques used in this process, where we will be using regression analysis and trend analysis specifically to see how well the closure is being conducted, and if needed, make adjustments as needed based on historical records or recent project closures. So these techniques are used to analyze existing data and will be improving as we go along. Keep in mind, all projects are continuously improved, so every project we learn something. So these techniques are used to analyze the process in its whole and make sure that we are improving every time we do this. Outputs then our final product, service, or result transition to the new product owner or project manager or program manager in that fact, so that they are fully aware of how to carry out the project in the future, so they don't start out from scratch. Next, we have organizational process asset updates, which could entail updating all of the policies and procedures for future use, and historical lessons learned or information tied to a closure for a specific vendor. So all of this will be tied and passed on to the new product owner and project manager carrying out the project in the future. So the key benefit of this process is that it provides lessons learned, the formal ending of the project work, and the release of organizational resources to pursue new endeavors for that project as a whole, not for the phase. Once the phase is over, you still hang on to your resources until all phases within the project are done. Then you release your resources. So keep that in mind. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and leave any questions if need be, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.